Iowa's drainage history is very similar to Minnesota's. 1906, the laws were enacted. 1906 to 1925, most of the drainage districts were established. And in Iowa, they're called drainage districts or like DD 65. In Minnesota, we'd call it a county ditch or judicial ditch, you know, JD or CD 65. So when we say DD, we're talking about a county ditch. So that's the history. Not much happened from 1922 to 1950s. And then the 1950s, very similar to Minnesota, there was an increase in drainage and tiling. And just like in Minnesota right now, we're seeing an increase in tiling and drainage district work. In 1983, there was a study that was done that analyzed drainage districts in 10 Iowa counties in the Des Moines River Basin. And basically it said that the mains are inadequate to drain the systems, though privately tiling was increasing. That's the general gist of it. So improving tile drain mains or county mains would eliminate a lot of the limitation on farmland. And then, like as Kurt said, 1985 we had some regulation, a little cartoon that we've used on some presentations, showing Moses and trying to cross the Red Sea and running into red tape. So for the Iowa initiative, it's kind of headed up by CREP. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, I'll kind of take it from here. Thanks, Chuck. The Iowa initiative is a plan that the Iowa Department of Agriculture and Land Stewardship has kind of come up with, and I&S Group or Keel and Pryor at the time. It was pretty deeply involved in that with kind of starting the program out. It initially started out with the CREP program, which you can see some pictures here of the wetland and kind of what you're going to see. The CREP program stands for the Conservation, Reserve, and Enhancement Program. A lot of these things you're involved with are all a mouthful, so we'll try and abbreviate some of them for you. But what we're looking at is, these drainage mains are old. They're 100 years old. They're older than anyone in this room. I don't want to offend anybody who's over 100. But they need to be repaired. They need to be upgraded. Modern farming practices are needing these. And as Kurt and other people had talked in the past, there was a lot of pasture land that we just wanted to dry out to be able to raise small grains for farm animals. And well, today that's not the case. There's not near as much small grains and things out in the landscape. There's more corn and soybeans. Is the bulk of the crops that are raised in Iowa. So while we're going along and improving these drainage mains, why don't we look at helping the water quality and wildlife and other things involved with that along the way. Next slide will kind of show you where we're working at. Sorry I don't have Minnesota on here. I know the Des Moines lobe goes up into Minnesota. I couldn't tell you exactly where, but it does. And this is the bulk of where that work is going to happen. The top of this podium is what the Des Moines lobe pretty much looks like. So it's not a real exciting place. It's pretty flat and expansive.
It's similar to what we have in southern Minnesota, Waseca County, Martin County, Blue Earth County. It's the same type of landscape, except for it's draining to the most of it's draining to the south or to the east, and not into the Minnesota River.
Yeah, correct. So on the drive up here, the only way I really knew I was coming up into Minnesota is I hit this big curve. I'm like, oh, I must be in Minnesota now. There's a lot of text here. I'll try and summarize it. One thing about the CREP program or the Iowa plan is, this is all fine and dandy that we want to put these wetlands at the end of tile systems or drainage systems, but another important aspect of that is a lot of people ask, what's going to happen? What's the science behind this? What are you doing other than building ponds? Everyone, you're building a pond. Well, yes, but I'm also building a wetland, which you call it a pond, wetland. People use them interchangeable, but when you get down to it, what's going to happen? What is the result of what we're planning here? You got all these crazy science people and engineers and lawyers and all these people. What are you going to give me in the end? What's going to come out of this? Am I going to have better treated water? Am I going to have better drainage? What's going to happen? So that's one effort of this program, is to try and answer some of those questions while in turn, increasing drainage. Every good engineering presentation needs one really boring slide with a whole bunch of information that no one really understands. So here's that one. 70% of the excess nitrates removed by a wetland based on 2% of the watershed will remove quite a bit of nitrates. So what we found through this program is there's kind of a sweet spot between 2% and 0.5% of the watershed needs to be put into some type of wetland practice, CREP or whatever it is. And then in turn, we were able to remove the excess nitrates out of there, which is kind of the goal of this whole thing. We want to be good stewards of the land, and we don't want to just take our problem and push it down the Mississippi River and give it to the people in the Gulf of Mexico. We'd like to try and help out up here in the landscape. Next slide is a map here of where I&S has all these sites. The stars are completed, the red sites are under development, and the blue ones are potential sites. So they're again, this is all up in the Des Moines Lobe, and it's all over the heart of Iowa, where a lot of the corn is produced.
And just to clarify, these are not all the Iowa.
No.
These are not the projects we're talking about. These are restored wetlands that have been monitored and where some of this data is coming from.
Yep. Next slide here is just is kind of a picture of everyone. Well, what is this? What is a CREP site? Well, here it is. A picture does it quite a bit of justice, and it doesn't look like a whole lot of thing to see, but it is, and it's very important. It's a kidney for the landscape to keep filtering out these pollutants or nutrients, is probably a more proper way of putting it.
We need 2 mics, by the way. Why are we doing this? Just briefly, Gulf of Mexico, you've got the dead zone, and where we talked about Lake Pepin earlier. In Iowa, we're going to the Mississippi River. That's getting down into the Gulf. We've got the dead zone where we have no plant or animal growth.
Okay.
There's a picture of it of New Orleans. And why is Iowa looking at this? When you look at the nutrient delivery to the Gulf of Mexico, they've got one of the largest percentages of phosphorus and nitrogen.
We'll just pass it back and forth.
When we look at land cover, this is the upper Mississippi and Ohio River basins. Everything that would be brown or tan would be
Cultivated
crop production.
Crop production.
In the next slide, we show the stream nitrate concentrations. Where are these contaminants coming from that are for contributing to Gulf hypoxia? You can see southern Minnesota, northern Iowa have orange spots, and then also Illinois and Indiana. So there's we're going over this very quickly because there's a lot that's gone into the Iowa initiative. And there's a hypoxia task force, and they said that they'd like to see nutrient reductions of 45% of nitrogen to the Gulf, 45% reduction of phosphorus, and in Iowa, a statewide strategy for trying to achieve these. And as you can see, as the current pace, we will not meet those goals. So, how are we going to get this done? That leads us back to the Iowa initiative.
This slide here is kind of a general overview. This is an example watershed. This is a project that I&S and Iowa State has done quite a bit of monitoring on. And as you can see, their targeted wetland or CREP site or Iowa Initiative site is placed at the end of this drainage system, and upstream from there, what do you see? The bulk of this watershed is tile drained or artificially drained, and it's in corn and soybean production. So this lends itself to this process. The benefits of this are numerous. As you can see, there's a long list of here. Now we want to reduce the nitrate transport. We want to reduce surface runoff. We want to reduce sediment delivery, phosphorus delivery, reduce greenhouse gases, increase habitat and ecological service functions of the landscape. And all these are good things. There's a lot of wins here. There's not, I think the good outweigh the bad in these projects. The end goal of this is to use this process to make this market driven. You know, by putting a wetland in your drainage district or on your system, you're able to increase your drainage coefficient. You're still putting out better, cleaner, higher quality water, but you're also growing more food on the land you already have been producing this food on.
And you're replacing a 100-year-old system at the same time.
Yes. So I mean, you're doing a lot of good here. This process kind of started out by this just a straight out solicitation of interest across the 3,000 watershed districts in the state of Iowa. IDAL sent a letter out. Hey, Pocahontas County. Hey, XYZ County. Do you have an interest in this? Do you have a place where you think this would work out? We want to talk to you. And then from that, they boiled it down to 7 projects. There's a few in Pocahontas County, Palo Alto, and Clay County, and one joint project between 2 counties. And after going through the drainage process, which you're all familiar with up here, it's similar to Minnesota, and it has its nuances, but it's still the same. And all these were existing districts that were already established 100 years ago or so. So these all come together, and we're still in the process of building some of them right now. I mean, we got guys working today that are working on a couple of these projects. I mean, it's happening right now. The yellow dots on this map, I know it's a little bit hard to see, are kind of where they're located. Up in the corner there, it kind of shows you where we're not very far south of you. So we may well skip across the border and come get you someday. But so that's kind of where we're at again. There was a lot of people working on this, the Iowa Initiative Interagency Working Group. And then you read down this list, and I'm not even going to try and read through them. It's just it's a lot of alphabet soup. But the goal of this program was to again try and get everyone involved. As much support for this as we can get. The better off we'll be, and it has been good. There's been some headaches along the way with any process, but I think lo and behold, all the parties involved think this is a good thing, and this is a progressive thing, and this is a way to move into the future.
When did it start again?
Oh, quite a few years ago. I mean, it's kind of come to a head, because of getting these pilot projects on the ground and being able to have some poster children, so to say, to show off what we can do and what has happened. And maybe, we're going to make some mistakes along the way. Some of these things might not work out perfectly as planned, and that's a good thing to find out. But you need to keep learning through this whole process. And I guess, and I&S Group's involvement in a lot of these is we've been engineer on a lot of these projects, designed a lot of these tile systems and CREP wetlands or pilot wetlands on the outlet. The technical work groups and study areas are hydrology and water quality, soil resources, habitat, greenhouse gases, crop yield, decision drivers. I mean, there is not just a small room of people sitting around talking about this. I mean, this is a pretty big thing. There's 49 research and technical members. I mean, the documents that come out of this are just crazy. I have a plan of getting around to reading some of them sometime, but I think sleep at night is probably more important. So. Talk a little bit about the amount of economic impact this has had. There's been kind of a 50-50 split between the landowners in the drainage districts and the state and involvement in this. There's a lot of money at stake, but that $15 million seems like a lot of money, but you start spreading this out over 5 to 7 projects, it doesn't go very far to get a lot done. A $1 million drainage project, a few years ago people would just walk out the room and they wouldn't even vote yes for it if you paid them. But more and more, I mean, there's people realizing we need this, we got to go with this, and why not do a little good while we're in it? I'll talk about a couple of the projects here, and we got a bunch of boards that we'll put out in the way here after, and you definitely come up and pick our brains if you have questions and ask as you see fit. The first pilot project was DD number 65 in Pocahontas County. There was some firsts on this project. It was the only drainage project awarded ARRA funding, and that was a good thing. Some people kind of look at you. You're not a city. You're not a county wanting to do something here. You're a drainage district. What are you? Who are you? What are you doing? But we agree with what you're doing, and we'll give you some money to do that. And as a result of that, the Pisces Award was given, and it's one of 2 given in EPA Region 7. I mean, the EPA realized enough that, hey, this is cool. You know, we want to give you an award for being progressive and thinking ahead on this. So that was a big deal for DD65. This is the stuff I like. This is where the action at. This is in the middle of February. We're digging an open ditch. The contractor come in and he goes, we want you to stake this. We are going to work through frozen tundra. They go out there every morning, fire up the dozers, scrape off 200 feet of snow, and have at it. And it was just it was a cool sight to see. You know, if we'd have had a wet spring, we needed that, and we did have the wet spring. And here's, you know, some of the drainage mains being installed. This is a big junction box. One side's a 48, the other side's a 42, and there's, you know, like a 36 and I think a 12 wall coming together. I mean, we kind of basically just replumbed the whole drainage district and put it into a wetland. So it's kind of the first go around at it. Okay, this one.
Here.
Why don't you take this one?
Yeah, just basically that there's been some recognition that this is, you know, a good program, that it can do some good for what the goal is in reducing nitrogens and trying to really help out the issue that we have with the Gulf.
To embellish on that real quick, I mean, this lowly little program in Iowa has received federal recognition for forward thinking and what's been going on. Another project, Pocahontas County DD 48 and 81. This was actually 2 drainage districts that had a petition going that we need to improve our drainage. We've got all this pattern tile out there, but we've got no good outlet for it. Well, lo and behold, you get a few engineers together and they come up with an idea to put this into a wetland, and it's worked out pretty good. And I really like this wetland. It's going to be pretty neat. You know, it's a larger wetland. You know, down at to the right of your screen as you're looking forward is the bulk of the wetland, and upstream from there was actually wasn't a drainage district facility. You know, drainage district had outletted to the south, so we had kind of a privately excavated creek or stream in between there that was not in a drainage district. So we kind of put that into a drainage district and said, hey, this is a great spot for a wetland. Let's put one here and we'll give it a try.
And just to describe it a little bit, this would be the berm that was constructed to dam up the water. There's an outlet structure, and then you have all of the tile inlets coming into it.
Yep. The next slide will show a few pictures of this. I'll kind of start on the left-hand side. That's the district open ditch being constructed down to the wetland. The picture next to there is a 54-inch tile that we had to bore under a county roadway. Now, there's the drainage tile installation. Another close-up view of your crepe sign here. We're right as we come into the wetland, you know, and then on the other side of the highway there, where we bored that 54-inch tile through, we put in 2 54-inch intakes to take all the surface water and get it through the roadway and down into the drainage ditch, which leads to the wetland. Next project is a little bit different, but still in Pocahontas County. It's DD 178. This project actually involved establishment of a drainage district. Prior to the establishment of this drainage district, all these farms were served by agricultural drainage wells. This is near the Gilmore City area. There's a lot of limestone around there, so, you know, people hundreds of years ago, we'll just drill down, we'll just dump our water down a well, back into the aquifer. Good thing, but we found that now that's also a source to dump pollutants, nitrates and phosphorus and these things right back into our water. So, you know, we come in, put in a drainage district and put a wetland at the outlet to help treat that water before we put it into a natural water course. Another kind of view of the wetland. This is a little smaller than some of the others, but there again, it's kind of a typical crepe site, but kind of not. You know, on the right-hand side of your screen is, you know, 2/3 of the drainage district goes around this wetland. You know, it was too big. We couldn't find a place to put the wetland, so we took probably half of the drainage wells, put them into this wetland. The other half continue out in a conventional system. It's going to allow, you know, Iowa State University and I&S to study the effects on both pieces of the same watershed. So, with that, I think we'll close. I'll leave it to Chuck here.
Well, you know, we're seeing, as Kurt said, a lot of drainage improvements in southern Minnesota, and, you know, same as in Iowa. and how do we apply this to Minnesota? We have, where these are going in, we have very similar landscapes, but each project is different. Right now we're doing a lot of different things. There's a project over in Mapleton called CD57, which has a pond, not a wetland, but a surge pond. Very similar to this. It was excavated with some berming. We're doing things like 2-stage ditches. We're looking at what I call kind of free storage. Do we have areas in open ditches where maybe it's going through a deeper area and all your tile are 6-8 feet from the bottom, and we can put something in the channel and store water in that area. We're looking at a lot of different ideas. You know, it's a challenge to look at a lot of these drainage systems, knowing that what is requested of us is to increase flow by 5 to 10 times, and at the same time, how do we protect those downstream? So each system is different. You know, Iowa has the 5 projects that are going. There's no results from them yet, correct?
No. Part of the work this summer will be with Iowa State and IDLs, and we've done a little engineering for that, is to get some flow monitoring structures put in and be able to put some numbers to this stuff. You know, how much water is coming out, how much water is going in, how much nitrate are you really removing? You know, is this wetland more efficient than that one? Is this system more efficient than that one? You know, and the other thing that we sometimes lose sight of when we're getting into all the science and all the nitty-gritty is what's happening on the upstream end. How are we increasing crop yields up here also? That's another thing they're going to look at. So they're looking at the whole picture and not just one piece of this pie. You know, it's a 10,000 foot view of how can we make drainage better.